This beautiful grouping of wall decor from Kirkland's could be redone in so many different ways. I also feel like we could redo it a little bit cheaper. So I popped in a Dollar Tree and grabbed two 8x10 frames. Obviously, grab as many frames as you want. We're just going to use two for this project. I also removed the backs so we could get rid of the glass. I'm not going to be using that for this project. If you want to keep yours and put it back over it once you're finished, you go right ahead. Next, I'm taking a piece of poster board and I am just going to lay that down and then take the backs of the frame and trace it to size. Then I'm just going to cut the pieces out that we traced. A piece of cardboard or even a piece of paper would work for this part just the same. We're really just giving a nice backing for our decor that we're putting on here to have a little bit more stability in front of the backing of that Dollar Tree frame. Just using some tacky glue to attach our pieces. The reason I love these pieces so much, other than the fact that they look extremely high-end and are obviously a little bit pricey, I felt like you could remix the idea into whatever matches your decor. So as you see, the piece we're duping, it has a blue background, and I am choosing to keep that blue background color, but you can make this red, you can make this black, you can make it orange, whatever works for you. I'm just using some chalk paint here. You can absolutely use acrylic paint or whatever kind of paint you would like just to paint what you chose for your backing. For the frames, I decided to use some of Dixie Belle's gold gilding wax. Obviously, if you don't have this stuff, use some gold paint. You could use some rub and buff. And if you don't want to paint the frames gold, paint them whatever color works for you. I'm pretty sure they look gold to me, people. So I'm trying to keep this, for a change, as close to the original as possible. The center part, I'm going to use some white paint as per in our Kirkland's piece. Use whatever color paint you would like. I think this would look best with our stencil. And I didn't have any greenery, but I sure had some floral stencils and thought these would go perfectly in the center. To apply our paint, I'm just using a makeup sponge and just tappity tap tap tapping right on top of the stencil. Now, I was not sure that if I put painter's tape, which I like to do to hold down my stencils because they move, if the paint, the blue part, you know what I'm saying, would have kind of pulled up as I pulled the painter's tape off. So I just tried to hold the sucker in place and it still turned out pretty good. I did the same thing with a different stencil on the next piece. When these are completely dry, if you want to put a layer of Mod Podge over them, you go right ahead. I did not. I just put them in the frames and I think they turned out absolutely stunning. I love me a good texture piece, and I think we really underestimate how easy it is to recreate high-end looking texture for a little bit of nothing, including using some Dollar Tree pieces from their nautical line. I love the shapes of these pieces, and I love that you can grab pieces like this, even if they got little things wrapped around them, and still recreate different DIYs. For our paint base, I'm going to be using DIY's paint and mixing it with a little bit of calcium carbonate. I get this stuff off Amazon for anyone that's wondering, not the DIY paint. I get that from Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs. But I love how mixing calcium carbonate with either this paint or chalk paint or even some acrylic paint with some chalk paint can give you a really simple texture. And you don't have to put like a chemically piece in there like spackling or caulk or joint compound. Baking soda works really well. Also, I do have a texture video for anyone interested. I can link that down in the description below where I share a bunch of really inexpensive ways to get textured medium looks. I used a sponge, just tappity tap 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 this stuff all over both pieces, and I did 2 layers. And just in case anyone is wondering what they look like over colored glass with just one layer of paint, this is what they look like. You definitely gotta tappity tap 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 on a second layer for nice full coverage. If you want to seal over these, I recommend waiting at least 24 hours, and Rust-Oleum matte spray paint or satin always goes on well over pieces like this. And keep in mind, whether you're tapping with a sponge or you're using a paintbrush for your texture, your technique is going to affect how thick or how thin the clumps and the sections are. So take your time as you're creating your texture pieces and make them something you love. I know what you're thinking, Brandy, not another lantern DIY. How many more lantern DIYs we need to see? This one, people. Listen, these lanterns are actually pretty inexpensive. They come in different sizes, and y'all know I love options. People, they also come in different colors, but I have a twist on these that I had to share. So just roll on with me. We're gonna need 2 of these Shadow Heidi box thingies from Dollar Tree, okay? $1.25 each. And then you're gonna need a wood stick. Whatever type of wood stick you would like. If you want to use tumbling blocks for this part, you go right ahead. I was not in the mood to put them suckers together. And I had this in my stash that I picked up from, I think, Home Depot. These are pretty inexpensive. So I brought on in the miter shears and then kind of eyeballed a size. I didn't measure, if I'm being honest. I was like, this height looks good, and just chop me 4 equal parts. Don't you just love when pieces get flying across the room and you're like, I'll find that next project? Here's where the twist comes in, because I'm sure you've seen the build construction before. We're going to take some texture paste and a stencil and create a raised stencil in the outer part of the box that has a pop through of color. Brandy, what are you talking about? Listen, we're going to mix some brown, okay? Still giving it the boho-y type feel, and you can recreate this with pretty much any type of stencil. Mix in with the texture paste. That's another thing I love about using this stuff, is you can take whatever color you want and you can turn it that color. And it's super easy to spread. Now I like to tape. As you can see, I got the painter's tape sitting down there. I tried to tape it on there, but it was not, big enough. It was too small. So I decided to just hold it on here with my hand and gently spread it out. If you don't have a fancy schmancy spreader to do something like this, people use like a plastic spoon or whatever. You can go ahead and wing it. It's gonna spread no matter what. I've even used my finger in a pinch with a wet paper towel, keeping my finger clean as I swiped the medium. And honestly, you can wipe the stencil off as you go as well, keeping it clean as you're smooshing. Sometimes I get like 3 applications before there starts to become a lot of bleed through. It just really depends on how well I have the stencil attached to the surface. Once the piece was completely dry, and you can usually check that by like taking your fingernail and pressing into the texture, it took about 45 minutes to an hour. And if you want to speed it up, you take your heat gun. Some of us don't have a lot of patience. And then you just paint over your piece. I just used some Waverly chalk paint in the white for this, and I gave the entire lantern a nice coat. When our paint was all dry, I grabbed my Type-On Quick and Thick wood glue. I smooshed a little bit in each corner, and then I grabbed the hot glue gun and put a little bit on the legs of our bracelet. What are we calling these? The wood pieces that go in the corner that attach the top and the bottom. How's that sound? The wood pieces. Let me know in the comments, what do you call them? I'm calling them legs. The lanterns have legs. I put these in there, and then I attached the top also using more wood glue and more hot glue. You can leave this like that if you want. It's nice, right? But I decided to grab one of Dollar Tree's little wood rings to just put in the center on the top of our roof, and I'm painting that the same brown paint that we put in our texture paint. Why, you may ask? because we're gonna grab some sandpaper and we are going to knock the top layer of that white paint off of our raised texture that we have, so that the beautiful color that we put in that texture mixture pops through. We have a gorgeous design all around the lantern. If you enjoyed these Dollar Tree dupes, check out this video right here. There is a ton more duping inspiration for you to get inspired by. As always, people, thank you all so much for hanging out with me today, and until next time.